Hi, everyone. Welcome to Digital Fortress, and good evening. This evening, we're going to have a discussion about continuing the Cardano ITN, the pros and cons, what the options are. Moving forward, what are our options on the ITN? I'll be monitoring chat. I'm going to hand the floor over to Brent, Mark, James, and Kyle so they can have a discussion on that. And I just wanted to give people a general idea. Mark has a fourth option, but going forward, what we have with Cardano is at least three options, at least three. Mark has a fourth option he's going to also present. And there's not really a lot of time to figure out what's the best option. There really is not a lot of time to do that. So the three options are the Cardano ITN ended, and that's option one, do nothing. So option one is do nothing. It's over. And there's pros and cons to that. And the pros are it allows you to put all your resources towards building the Shelley mainnet, the Haskell mainnet, and continuing the ITN. So that's option one is it's over. Okay, done. Woohoo, great. Good job, very successful. Option two is to reignite the ITN with the same Genesis block and the same snapshot. And the third option is to reignite the ITN with a new snapshot. And that one has the most work. It also has potentially the most rewards. So it goes in that order, in those levels. You know, do nothing and there's no rewards. Do a little bit of something and there's some rewards for the existing people. And do even more work. Option three. Mark, what was option number four? You were describing right before we went live.
Option number four is well, it's not like immediate thing, but it demonstrates the value of continuing the Rust backend, and it's that in 2018, IOHK actually published a paper called Proof of Stake Sidechains, which describes a mechanism how you could use non-interactive zero-knowledge proofs to move value between different chains. And one of the demonstrations that one of the protocols for which they demonstrated the capability and the security of the mechanism is obviously Ouroboros. In addition to that, they also demonstrated for Algorand and couple more protocols. But what we could do is that we could start with the snapshot as it is, continue on, and then we could develop the functionality to move tokens between, or state between the ITN and the mainnet. And the people who were not included in the December or in the November snapshot could, in like 3 months, move their funds to the ITN and start participating on the ITN then. And it would be one of the first implementations of proof of stake sidechains for us as a Cardano community. And it actually demonstrates the value, because what we could then could then go and tell Algorand guys is like, hey guys, we wrote this paper. Here we tested it. It works between Cardano Haskell and Cardano Rust. So, you know, they would be more open to actually implementing the functionality and having sidechain with Algorand. Then you can go to the Tezos guys, having sidechains with them, and so on and so forth. What happened with the proof of work sidechains, non-interactive proof of work, is that Bitcoin community basically told the Cardano community or the developer at the time to piss off, right? So that the one guy from IOHK who was doing it as a PhD wrote a full implementation of non-interactive proof of work for Bitcoin. And the core developers rejected it and haven't accepted the patch into their code base. But Bitcoin Cash did. So we could build side chains with Bitcoin Cash, but not with Bitcoin.
Okay. Well, let's kind of rope this back into is it an option? Is it a viable option that's on the table right now? Because that is a really good, interesting idea. It's a long-term solution. And as option number 4, it is also, it sounds like, the greatest amount of work with potentially the greatest amount of reward and the greatest amount of capability implemented.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at it this way: the options that we described, right?
Okay.
So we kill it. Okay. So what's the benefit? Well, you can stop. Well, some people can stop their cloud instances if they don't plan going onto the Haskell or whatever. But
Yeah.
if you are planning on going onto the Haskell mainnet, you can keep on running the German Gander nodes on your relays. You don't need to
Yeah.
run it on your core node.
Well,
If in the block producing node, if you want to keep that one more secure, right? Because there is not this sense of separation and as there is in the Haskell node, as there is with German Gander because of the peer-to-peer protocol.
yes. Okay. No, that's option 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
So let me kind of dig into that just a little bit. All right. With option 1 is if you just let the Rust Cardano ITN, just let it die. It ended as of about 10 hours ago. It's over. All right. Then what that does is it frees up it frees up all the pool operators to concentrate their time, effort, and resources on building the HTN and the mainnet. Because the HTN, I guarantee it, it's going to roll right into mainnet. It's going to be one day all of a sudden, poof, we're on mainnet. So that's a limited resource. Time is a limited resource. Money's a limited resource. The number of humans working on it is a limited resource. So if we want to continue the Rust ITN, it will take away from people who are building the Haskell HTN. It absolutely will.
What about
just to play devil's advocate?
What about this idea? What if you just leave it running as is? I mean, why does it have to be refreshed? Because Charles was talking about having even listed on Binance, which there would be your financial incentive to keep running.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it can be easily switched where we can start collecting transaction fees or not. But
yeah, that's option 2. Option 2 is leave it running as is. Go ahead.
And then the big players would want to move on to the Haskell, and other people who maybe haven't even jumped in yet might start running the Jormungandr nodes because that's already mature. It's easier to set up. People know how to do it. And if you look in the GitHub, there's been tons of development since the last release, including things like voting, and it looks like they're trying to angle toward bringing a Hydra and all that. It's sort of
there is nothing related to Hydra. There is lots of related to governance, but there isn't anything that would relate to Hydra. Poldercast may be the protocol used for communication between the individual Hydra nodes, but I think it will more be utilized for sharding later on. I wouldn't be really surprised if Ethereum wouldn't take Poldercast, name it somewhere else, and use it as their sharding networking solution, but that's just the pure speculation.
But regardless, they've been doing a lot of work on it, and I mean, just like kind of just quick glance of the code, it looks like they're even trying to maybe make the Rust network interoperable with the Haskell network. So I believe there's like some plans to maybe want to keep that running. They just have to get buy-in from us to do it. And I don't know that there would be a whole lot of difficulty in getting that buy-in, because if it's a lesser network, if it's not as important, then just run a node. If you go down, you reboot it, not a big deal.
I mean, yeah, from our perspective, yeah, totally. From our perspective, we're seeing that. We're running the nodes, we're putting in the sweat, the energy, but you have a subset of the community that sees this as potentially an adversarial move, or something that's going to have implications that we really can't foresee. And I don't think they understand the magnitude of work it takes to really test what that means, and B, the opportunity that comes with that. Mark's option of looking at side chains, I see that as something that's applicable with any scenario. You let the ITN die, people are still going to keep their nodes up. We might do something crazy with it. It may or may not be with Cardano, but that's something that nobody wants. We want this to be something that's an incentivized area for operators to thrive and monetize. And you're right, some people run, nodes on both chains. Some people will, thrive in the ITN because they can't compete on Haskell. So I see it as an all-around win-win. It gives us an area to be, because we were reckless. We were pretty cool with the testnet, right? We tried all kinds of crazy stuff. We pushed the limits, and you give us a box to do that. That's exactly what we're going to do. So I think that is going to be essential to innovation. And under any scenario, something's going to happen. But what's that going to be? That's the question.
Yeah.
Maybe a little word in to enter in here. I mean, we as a community, Cardano, are saying all the time, scientific method. Well, experiment is a part of a scientific method where it's possible. It's always, I mean, so having an experimental chain makes a lot of sense. When it comes to blockchains and cryptocurrencies, incentives are always and game theory are always part of that experiment. If there is no incentive to behave in a certain way, then you will not do it just for fun when there is a cost of doing it. But the incentive on the experimental chain can be a very, very little. And as Umed said on the live broadcast from TCE yesterday, that you could like be minting blocks on the ITN and then expect it to moon one day and make you rich. That doesn't need to happen. We can hedge against it. There are, of course, financial instruments and financial mechanisms that can guarantee either fixed exchange price between testnet data and the mainnet data, or guarantee a range of lower bound and upper bound, even though if there will be a secondary market and it gets listed on Binance or doesn't, or over-the-counter markets, whatever, you can make it so that you can use on-chain mechanisms to have a price guaranteed within a certain range. And if you won't use that mechanism and go to over the counter instead, you are going to lose money yourself, either one of the parties that is part of the transaction. So we don't need to be afraid of this risk. I mean, there is. I think that the fear of the community comes from something that you would describe as value erosion.
Yes. And, Mark, you bring up a good point. So we looked at option 1 and option 2 so far. Option 1 is do nothing, let the ITN die off, concentrate all resources on building the HTN and the mainnet, right? Then option 2 is keep it running and keep the nodes going. It draws less resources and has some reward to it, okay? And I really like your very long-term view on that. And the third option is to reset the Genesis block and take a new snapshot. And that one requires more effort. For example, all the delegations will disappear. Mm-hmm. They will no longer be there.
That would be
the pool operators. The pool operators will have to rebuild their pools from scratch. Although it's easier, like James pointed out, it's easy in Rust. It's actually not that hard in Haskell, but that doesn't matter right now. And so the key is we're trying to look at the near-term solution is should we do it or not? And Mark, you bring up some brilliant long-term solution stuff, which is the option 4. So, I mean, option 3 is reset the Genesis block, a new snapshot. What are your thoughts on that? New snapshot or no? Good or bad?
Let me just say the difference between option 2 and option 3 is that it's a short-term cash grab for either those who were ready for the ITN, or do we include the rest of the community in the cash grab as well? But let's be honest. If the plan is let's continue it for 2 months and then dissolve it, then it doesn't really make sense because it's just a cash grab.
Yeah, I think my own opinion,
no, for
option 3 is not worth the effort for 1 month.
Yeah.
If it leads to option 4 long term, maybe it's worth the effort.
Yeah, not for 1 month, longevity. Sorry, James. I was just going to say, if they were going to do some sort of redistribution, maybe the way they could look at it is kicking out ADA per block minted by pool and do a new gen hash. And that would give the pools the power to rebuild their own pools, right? You know, they're the ones that are sustaining the network. So I would support a power shift on that level with the ITN relevant to that, because that is the purpose, you know, to incentivize these operators to help us push forward and create new things very quickly. So I would almost be for something in that realm, but creating a new Genesis hash for what, you know, if it doesn't shift power towards the operators running the network, then I don't see that as advantageous to us or really to Cardano.
I mean, is there any technical reason why there has to be a new Genesis?
People who are, there are people who are losing money by not being involved in the ITN.
But that's not a technical reason. That's a
well,
financial or personal.
Yeah, but
yes,
that's
if it gets listed on Binance,
that's the main argument. No, they could list it as it is right now.
If they list it on Binance, then people could buy into it. They could buy into it from the operators who don't want to run nodes on the ITN.
That's a good point. They could buy into it. They could buy the ADA off of the. Although who would want to do that? Maybe some people will.
I mean, this could end up being kind of like a Litecoin.
Rewards. Why not? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would buy some off of Binance or whatever to add to the ITN for myself, because I don't have as much.
No, man, I'd just trick all the haters to give me theirs.
Oh. I don't know. It's just like, if it's on Binance, there's a financial aspect to it, because then you could dream of the moon.
Also, there is this notion of having to have it listed and buy it. I don't think it would be that hard. If we look at who is the biggest wallet after the CF, IOHK, and Emurgo, it's the Binance wallet. I don't think it would be that much of an effort to convince Binance to just give those ITN tokens away. If there would of course need to be some payment for the work that the Binance engineers would have to do to recover those tokens.
Well, they would be giving it to their account holders who own that.
Or they could give it to IOHK if the agreement would be done so, and then IOHK could decide who gets the tokens. I mean, it's up to the discussion and agreement between the representatives of the community, including Cardano Foundation, and right. It doesn't necessarily mean that Binance needs to list testnet data. It's just like that we are currently participating on the ITN with what, 40% of the overall total stake?
Yeah, 13.1 billion out of 31 billion, whatever that is.
Something just occurred to me. See, Binance wouldn't just take those tokens legitimately and keep them for themselves. They would distribute them to their account holders who had those tokens at the time of the snapshot back in November, which means that a bunch of account holders would then be getting some new tokens, as like however they word it, like an airdrop or whatever, which then might draw a little bit more attention to that network. So then you'd have some new participation for people who weren't even aware of what was happening at the time. And those people could sell or whatever.
Well, was Binance not staking this whole time?
No.
Did they not have their tokens in the wallet? Did their tokens not exist?
Are you talking about their earnings? I don't know.
They can.
They could delegate it, but they didn't. You can see it when you look at the delegation and the distribution and the movement of the tokens and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
If they were, then they should distribute that to the account holders that would have actually owned those tokens. But that might be why they didn't do it.
Things like shoot in crypto doesn't really exist now, do they?
There's a lot of money there though, and there's some guy that could actually be hunted down, and so.
If they had it, why weren't they doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, Mark could probably do it. Okay, hey, we got a question from one of our fellow pool operators. Martin Lang makes a point, and he's in the chat, and he says, the question is, do we need it? Okay, and the need it would be to continue. And he also mentions that leaving all new people from the last 7 months out of the equation is not a good idea, in my opinion. So that kind of leans towards option 3, and that is continue the ITN with a new snapshot to bring in all those people.
Well, do we need it? It's not a question if we need it. The question is, can we benefit from it?
Yes.
Yeah, because you can try out new things before launching
I
on the mainnet.
I don't need the new shoes, but if I buy new shoes, they will be better resistant against the wet weather outside. So it's the benefit. So no, we don't
big
need
value.
But yeah, we can gain value, and now it's about quantify what the value would be or is.
How valuable is a large testnet, the lot of participation? That's extremely valuable
Yes.
to the development of the, so if we were to be, a less stable coin because, we're trying out experimental technologies that might cause a little bit of havoc and so forth. Therefore, the coin would be worth less because there's more risk associated with it. But we could also be trying out new technologies before those technologies are launched into the mainnet. That provides tremendous value to the mainnet because the node operators of a large network, a large testnet of all sorts of different participants, that's huge value right there. It can be testing the stuff out before it gets dumped on Cardano or the mainnet and risk damaging it. Say that again?
Or before it's decided that it will never be moved to mainnet because it failed on the testnet, right?
Yeah. So if it blows up on the testnet, we don't put it on the mainnet.
Yeah. And that's value right there. Also, one thing that doesn't get mentioned in the world, Rust is not exactly an old language. It's relatively new. But there is still about 20 to 50 times more Rust developers out there than Haskell developers. So, onboarding new resources to try new stuff and enable this rapid sort of experimentation is certainly more economical and more feasible than scaling up and scaling out the Haskell development capability.
That's a good point, Mark.
Well, and not only that, a catastrophe on the ITN wouldn't tank ADA too if they're isolated.
Well, it would probably it would probably do there would probably be a financial connection. I mean, it wouldn't destroy the chain, but as far as the markets would be concerned, it would reflect probably in the price.
Yeah. Mark, I got a dumb question. Maybe you can answer this. Does it have to be a choice of Rust or Haskell, or is there a both solution? And I'll give you an example. Let's say you take the current Haskell network that doesn't have the Poltercast technology, right? It's written in Haskell. Then you take the Poltercast that's written in Rust, and you compile it, and you put the hooks in there to make them talk to each other. Can you have a Haskell binary with the Rust Poltercast connected to it, and it takes care of the comms? Like right now, we're doing this Zoom thing. I'm not just using Zoom. I'm using Zoom. I got YouTube over there. I got a Chrome web browser. I got all these different technologies. I don't know how they work. All I know, if I click on the right button, it works, right?
Well, I'm actually
Can you do that? Can you connect the Rust and Haskell and put the Poltercast on there and make this super massive, powerful, freaking Hydra looking thing?
That's basically what I described when I said about when I talked about the proof of stake sidechains. What you are talking about is more on doing, and I spoke about it on a blockchain level. What you talk about is doing it on the even lower level, and it is possible, but it's definitely not easy. You could take the poll, but there are several reasons. First of all, the consensus algorithm that is in the Rust node is not exactly the same as the one that is in the Haskell node. So this is a gap that would need to be filled. And second, you could take the Rust Poltercast binary and somehow, bend it onto the Haskell code base. I looked into it, how difficult it would be, and so on and so forth. And it could be done, but it's not something. It's not something for like next month or two.
Okay, so it's not an easy task. It would probably be better to just rebuild the Poltercast or something similar to that. Just rebuild it in Haskell.
No, it would be easier to rebuild the Haskell protocol networking protocol in Rust.
Okay. So what makes option 3 and 4 worth it? Option 3 is the significant level of effort, new snapshot, reignite the ITN, get a new snapshot, and try to keep that sucker rolling, right?
So
what makes it worthwhile?
Option 3, it levels the playing field again for the old operators, new operators, and so on and so forth. I mean, you and I, we were there since the epoch number 2, right? Well,
Epoch 1, Epoch 0. We were there at Epoch 0.
Well, I registered at Epoch 0, but it takes two epochs to actually appear, right?
Yes, sir.
It took me like 7 before I got a block.
Yeah.
But we also went through the Epoch 7 when like 49% of the network forked and so on and so forth. So we made some delegates, we lost some delegates. Also, as we see the amount of pools onto the ITN, the K is not set exactly right, because we have around 1,000 pools trying to make a block, while at the same time the K is set to 100. So it would probably be reasonable to increase that parameter. Another thing is that A naught or the pledge is not at all present in the ITN. We all know that there is probably half of those 1,000 pools are some people running multiple pools. So we could put the A naught in there, set it to very low number, to at least a little bit discourage people running 2 pools.
The new voting mechanisms being built in could be used to change those, K values and so forth, though, right?
Well, depends if the voting mechanism or
that's under development right now.
Yeah. But it depends if the ledger rules support it.
Oh, what's stored on a blockchain has to support the vote?
Not everything.
Okay, but some piece of data.
It may require some additional coding. While we know that if we create a new Genesis, we know we can set the K to 300. If we create a new Genesis, it doesn't require any additional coding.
No, Mark, that's also a good point you bring up. Let's say we use the Rust ITN, keep it running. Currently the K is set to 100. We switch it to 300. And 2/3 of the pool operators continue to operate their pools. That would keep the ITN alive, right? Mm-hmm. That would keep the ITN alive. Then you would find out K equals 100 gave us about 280 successful pools that consistently created blocks. With K equals 100, we hit 280. You could test K equals 200 and throw pledge out of the equation because it's not part of the equation, and find out, does K equal 200, does that get you 560 pools, or does it only get you 400 pools? I don't know, but that is the kind of tests you could do with a testnet running. It just has to be worth it to the pool operators. And I would like to point this out.
And it needs to be worth it to the delegates to actually redelegate.
Yeah, and it has to be worth it to the delegators to redelegate also. And because I would like to point out that there are some heated debates going on Twitter, which is good, and people have to understand that people do have these different opinions. And here's the type of debates that I'm seeing where people differ. Some people say keep the original snapshot because you need to reward the people who were there from the beginning. Some people are saying bring in the new snapshot to get buy-in from all the new people. And there's different debates here and there. And some people are upset because they think they don't have a vote, yet they do. But you got to weigh the vote. You got to look at it this way. You can't have a network without pool operators. So the pool operators have to vote.
Yeah.
They vote with their feet. They either leave their nodes on or they shut their nodes off. That's a vote. You can't change that vote. That's an immutable vote. If I leave my node on, I voted yes. If I shut my node off, I turned off, and no one can say anything about it, right?
Yeah.
And the other type of vote is what do the delegators want? And it is two separate kinds of votes. It clearly
this functionality for the old for the people who have ITN funds is being built in the 0.9.0 German Gander. So
there's another one coming out.
They've been developing it ever since that last release. I mean, it's been constant development.
Yeah, we saw that there were updates on GitHub, but I didn't know that there was like an imminent release. Is that the case?
They have an RC1 last time I checked.
Yeah, but the RC, I actually tested it yesterday because no money anymore. It doesn't connect to the 08 network. And I spoke with Nicolas, and he said that they will have to work on that if they will want to keep the ITN on running.
Almost immediately after that last release that came out, I was updating from the master and it broke. So like they made changes almost immediately.
I wasn't as brave as you to upgrade to master every time. I was building a master image just to go through the CI/CD pipeline, but I never deployed it on the production. So.
Yeah, they tried.
I noticed it today.
They changed. I can't remember what it was. They changed.
There is the ID parameter was removed from the peer nodes.
Yeah, that was part of it.
I think there is a change in the gRPC protocol that is used to exchange blocks between the nodes. But when wallet sends a transaction, my 0.9.0 RC1 node has it in a mempool. So transactions work fine, but blocks are not being exchanged.
Okay. So that's a good example with option number 3 and 4, 0.9.
Well, that's actually another.
Let's say it's released. Let's say it's released. How do you test it if there's no rewards? Is it gonna actually show up as rewards, but you don't get them? Or
I think Charles hinted that they would be able to add rewards somehow. I don't know how that works. If you'd have to like transfer some Testnet funds over to something or whatever.
Yeah, but not for like another week or so. They actually have to put the code in there. So we right now we're looking at a week of downtime. So this decision unfortunately needs to be made quickly. Because we knew this thing was going to run out of money. Like Marcus Guffler told me like 2 months ago, and he said, "Oh yeah, I calculated June 17th." Oh, he was right. Marcus and Priyank, I think, figured out it was going to end. They knew it, and they told us in Telegram it was going to end between June 17th, June 16th.
Yeah, I think in the beginning lots of us were surprised that it was funded for roughly 6 months.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be more short-lived. Well, there is actually another option that the pool operators can do. They could all upgrade to the 0.90, or at least half of the network, and that would even more demonstrate that the pool operators want to keep the ITN running.
I think that they're going to have it where, based on what I was just looking at, glancing at it, it looked like they were going to try to have it where the version 9 would be able to talk to the version 8 nodes.
They are trying to add it now. But if 51% of the network would upgrade to 0.9.0 RC1, the network would fork, and the 0.8.19 fork would die out because majority of the blocks would be made on the network that is unable to communicate with the old one. So the operators could force the ITN version 2 without incentives tomorrow if they would want it to. If half of the stake would do it. That's how Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash became, right? Somebody just upgraded their node.
But then your blocks won't be accepted by anybody else, so it's too much of a risk to start off that way.
Well, what we can do is that you can run both. You could spin up another instance of German Gander with the same secret, and if enough people join you then turn off the 0.8. We are working with Nakamoto consensus, which says the longest chain is the right chain. So if you, Rick, and Kyle, and I spin up 0.9 today, and then another 10 people join tomorrow, and in 3 days you get the 51% of the network, we can then decide, okay, let's turn off the 0.8.19.
That doesn't sound like that sounds more like a Cardano bronze or something like that.
Well, no, it's like, okay.
James, I was thinking Mark has a brilliant idea here. That's where you really find out. Do the pool operators really want to do it?
Well, we should upgrade regardless when it's ready.
Switch to 0.9, and then you'll see right there in Pool Tool, you'll see on a little pie chart, everyone's switching over to 0.9. When it hits 51%, they'll never hit 51%.
If they're going to keep the nodes running, they're going to upgrade. But I mean, I don't think we should do it prematurely. I think we should wait till the version 9 is fully released, because then I think it'll talk backwards.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
I'm looking at Pool Tool statistics right now, and I know they are not representative, but we have people running nodes as old as 0.8.9, 0.8.6.
Oh my God. Okay, Michael Fazio build.
Those people haven't upgraded their nodes for like what, 3 months?
Yeah. One guy had his node running over 1 million seconds.
I say let's kick those people out of the network, you know.
Nah, man, that Michael Fazio build was championship.
Well, it was, and lots of his.
I'm still running that.
You're still running it, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm still running it.
That's like an old
0.89 Alpha 6.
That's like an old car. All right, guys, let me get some inputs from some of our some of the folks in chat. Riley O'Flone brings up a good point. She said, if you do a second snapshot, thank you, Riley. Appreciate you dialing in. If you do a second snapshot, incorporate the ITN rewards as loyalty points to keep the older holders happy while allowing new holders to join. Is that possible? Do a second snapshot. It incorporates the ITN loyalty points.
Just distribute the rewards and then do the snapshot. Yeah.
Riley, right? You're brilliant. You helped us out. Look at that.
I mean, everything is possible, but this is like the option that takes the most effort.
It does, yeah. Option 5.
In the beginning, you've been, you know, like let's find the effort balance, and this is the option that takes the most effort.
Yeah. You have to do the snapshot and then run the scripts that would distribute the rewards after you did the snapshot and blah blah blah. Yeah.
Well, basically, what you need to do is that you would need to burn all the funds that were initially in the snapshot of the ITN, make a new snapshot, and combine the snapshot ITN1 with the burned initial tokens, and combine that with the new snapshot, and that would give you a Genesis block that would contain all the rewards. Because there were people who were moving rewards from their reward addresses to their UTXO, like myself.
Yeah, that's something we have to keep in mind. Mark, it's a good point. Is that at least the rewards are on the accounting model side. I don't know how it works, but I do believe it gives us more flexibility.
No, it doesn't, because I know a lot of people who moved them from the accounting address to the UTXO address. I moved them all from the JCLI to my Yoroi address.
Okay. You know, I was thinking of doing that to spam the network, and I thought, no, I might break something that I don't understand how to fix. So I just left it all on the rewards and on the accounting side instead of trying to move it. You actually moved it.
Yeah, I moved it, yeah.
Does that mean you're going to get paid out when they distribute the rewards on the mainnet?
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I think it will. I mean, I think the rewards always go to a certain address.
But if you did he say he moved it out of the?
I think they will appear in the reward address, because I think what they are going to do is that they are just going to replay all the history and account for it. They will not look for the moves. They will just account for rewards distributed at each at the end of each epoch, and then they credit that balance to the address that is accessible with the seed that you have for the ITN. That's how I think IOHK is going to do it.
You could test it out by moving all your rewards over to my reward wallet and then see what happens.
Hey, guys, let me do a quick poll. Right now, there's 61 people dialed in, watching, and so I would like to get some user feedback, and then I'll do a Twitter poll now that we talked about this a little further. So we got 4 options on the table, and I'm going to include Riley O'Flowen's input in there on option number 4. So option 1 is do nothing, let it die, focus all resources. Okay, quick summary.
I say I throw that out because Charles has already said that the resources are not shared. There's the Rust team and the Haskell team; they're separate.
Yeah, but
I disagree. I disagree. That's just the team. You got to look at the pool operators. The pool operator resources are important. That may be their team. But
he talked only about the IOHK resources, but we have other resources here. We have pool operators. We have app developers. Like think about Emurgo, right? They need to support Yoroi.
Yeah.
So that's they don't have separate teams for Jormungandr integration and Cardano node integration. You have Papacar, you have Pool Tool, you have ADA Pool. So there are community resources which may not be as scalable. Are you smoking a joint, Kyle?
Yeah. You have limited community resources. You literally have only.
Oh man, I'd be passing.
You literally have only so much time. You really do. And even IOHK, they have so many servers out there. They have so many DevOps people. So the Rust and Haskell team might be separate, but I mean, I don't work for IOHK, but there's a lot of effort that doing something here is going to take away time from doing something over there. It just absolutely will. There is no denying it, and it will take effort. It will take resources from IOHK, possibly Emurgo. It will take resources from the pool operators. It absolutely will. That is just ground truth.
I think
but
the community.
There's a testing though.
I think the community resources are the constraint here. Okay, I don't think the people at IOHK to them that it would really make any sort of difference.
I think it will.
It could build community though.
They can only run so many servers. They got to run those servers, man.
They rent them from ABS,
and that costs money and time.
Yeah, it costs like $100. It costs like $100 per.
Multiplied by 7 servers, multiplied by 3 test nets, multiplied by people working 24 hours a day. I guarantee you, it absorbs time and money.
No, this is a process. DevOps is a process that scales very well. Actually, that's why it was. So you can take the same amount of people that take care of your 10 servers and scale it to 1,000. We have a bank in Czech Republic which we did a case study, and they had 5,000 servers supported by 6 people, and they could do with 3.
Mark, I'm going to ask you a question. What costs more money? What costs more money? 1,000 servers or 100 servers? 1,000 servers cost more money. I'm just saying, just totally honest, brute force. 1,000 servers cost more than 100 servers. If you have your DevOps people up until 2 o'clock in the morning, because you and I have been on Telegram. It's been midnight my time, right, Mark? Midnight my time, 6 o'clock in the morning your time, and those people are up all night trying. That was at the beginning of the testnet. They got burned out. You know they got burned out.
But that's what I want to say. I mean, running the node and IOHK DevOps side of the ITN, it was resource intensive in the beginning. Now it's just running, and when there is a new release, it takes like 3 hours of a DevOps engineer to deploy it. It was time consuming, but it's not anymore. Now the effort on both the IOHK side and the pool operator side should have been minimal. If you need to keep if you need to put a lot of effort into keeping your Rust node up and running and making blocks these days, you probably aren't very prepared for running a production.
Mark, I think
it might increase the community.
I think 99% of pool operators, 99% of pool operators would agree with you, Mark. These days, it's much easier.
Yeah, okay? But let's not talk about the past.
Now you got pool operators who are running both Haskell and ITN, which I'm just being fair. I'm playing devil's advocate, and I'm just calling it like it is. They have to put their time and resources into those nodes. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying it has to be worth it.
Yeah, but what?
Well, the testnet itself is worth it just because of
There you go.
the ability to test things.
Right. Is it worth it to each operator to keep it running? That's the key.
No.
No,
we
to
have
me.
to make it worth it.
Not to every pool operator.
Once it goes on Binance, there's going to be so many people that want to run these dormant.
You are making an assumption that that it will go on Binance.
I bet it will. Because Charles hinted with that little gleam in his eye that he'd be able to get it accomplished.
He said it would be easy, yeah, and I believe him. I don't think it should be listed, to be honest. I think that using the sidechain approach and the decentralized exchange with Cardano mainnet would demonstrate our technical capability as a community, would prove technical capability, would prove the science validity, and would demonstrate a clear use case for a paper that was published in 2018.
I agree, Mark, but I think you're mixing short-term and long-term. Short-term, we can't do that. Short-term, you can get listed on Binance, but short-term, you can't create a DEX, right?
Yeah, sure.
So the short-term incentive to keep pool operators engaged, because you have to hit the pool operators first. The delegators have nothing to delegate if the pool operators aren't running. Okay.
Oh, the simplest
get it is listed on Binance, right? Short-term, but build the DEX long-term.
The short-term incentive for pool operators to keep the nodes running would be to refuel the treasury and and not to piss everybody else off, pay only 10% of the rewards for the ITN block.
Once you do this, once you draw a line and say that these rewards are going to go to the mainnet, and it's like after this point, no more rewards go to the mainnet, then I don't see any reason why you wouldn't just keep it going. And think about this, short-term, long-term. In the long term, it's not going to matter. I mean, the difference between doing a different snapshot now or not in the long term is really not going to matter. There might be some people that are upset that they can't get their current holdings included. Because I know a lot of people have been, like one of my larger delegators, he's like quadrupled his holdings since the snapshot. So, I mean, he would probably love it. But in the long term, I don't think it's really going to matter, especially if you're able to trade and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, so
wait, quadruple.
Let's be honest.
I'm going to delegate to your pool. I'm just kidding.
The rewards the rewards that has been paid thus far has been very, very generous.
Well, he didn't quadruple from my pool. He quadrupled by buying and buying more.
So he helped me out by boosting the price.
Yeah.
Somebody in chat said, "Oh, it's not about Martin says, why Binance? Isn't it about the science? Is it about the science? Yes, it's about both. You can have both. It's about science and it's about the price. The
science of the dollar.
And
it's about
I
both.
don't know if you guys ever heard this concept, but it's called service level agreements. And when you run an enterprise, and you run like an ERP system like SAP, you have your development environment, you have your test environment, and you have your production environment. And when you outsource that to a service provider, you sign a different SLA for a different of those environments. Your production, every minute counts. The service provider pays you $1 million per hour of downtime. But for the test environment, if it doesn't run for 1 day, there may be like no penalty. So what I'm saying is that up till this point, we've been rewarded generously, both the pool operators and the delegates for delegating the stake and operating the nodes. We don't need to, moving forward, pay the same level of rewards. We could lower the reward per block on the ITN. It could be like 5%, 10%, 15%, doesn't really matter what the percentage is. The point is, it could be a fraction of what it was till now, and they would still be transferable. So let's say we've been running this testnet for 6 months, and we have like 2 months till we start paying the rewards on the mainnet. That represents certain amount of relay data. We could take that amount and stretch it to 20 months if we pay just 10% of the rewards per block.
You mean not a 10%?
I think he's saying
interest rate, but 10% of the current level?
Yes. So 1.2%. Yes.
I think he's saying to have it where it stays a test net, the rewards still get transferred over to the main net, as opposed to it becoming a totally separate net. Is that what you're saying?
For the short term, yes.
For like the next year or something.
You know, we would have to make up our minds. There would have to be a collective decision, or at least some. You're never going to get consensus. You can't even agree what consensus means. But is it going to remain a test net, or will it become a real coin? It's hard to have both. Like if it's a test net, you'll beat the crap out of it and you won't care. But if that has real value, then you're not going to beat the crap out of it. Because I tell you what, from September to December, when the test net was really a test net with fake ADA, I beat the crap out of it.
And you haven't done it since.
And I haven't done it since. As
Right.
soon as that had real value, I've been like, just keep the node running and tiptoe around it.
Well, that's why we make this.
But when it was a test net, I beat the crap out of that thing. I was like, oh look, my node's running at 70C when I send out 10,000 transactions every 5 minutes.
Look, Rick, but there is also this point. Are you more careful where you have $10 in your wallet, or where you are carrying 100,000 because you are going to buy something?
I'm more careful when I have more money on me, but you know, I live
So
in the
if the-
United
so
States.
if-
You know how
so
that
if-
works, right, Kyle?
So
Yeah.
if the reward for the making blocks on the testnet will be just a fraction of the mainnet, the people will be more willing to experiment there and break things.
Mark, you're right again.
I don't know that we should like continue moving rewards from a test net over to the main net in any kind of long term, because we set like an expectation that this would only last so long, and it might. I could see people getting to be more and more nervous about the speed of the the dilution or whatever, the inflation. If we just kind of like fixed it, but
yeah, but
I guess it's like, go on.
There was also an assumption that the ITN will smoothly transition into the mainnet. We now know it's not happening, and we have 2 months till the start of the mainnet.
Mm-hmm.
So we were working with the assumption that the amount of inflation will be spent on the mainnet for the next 2 months. But we now know it won't. So if we slash the rewards to 10%, we stretch those 2 months of funds that were supposed to be given away to 20 months, which gives us enough time to implement a side chain between mainnet and the testnet. Then you would move those 20 months worth of reward using the side chain, and then there would be no more rewards. There would be just liquidity between the testnet and the mainnet. And you as an app developer, what you would do is that you could you have your application, and that application has 2 properties, because most blockchain applications have it. They have some game theory things, and they have some like actual applicational things, how the app works and how psychology and the human behavior should work. So even to the app developer who wants to develop a decentralized application, the incentivized testnet with much lower value though has a value. So there would be a flow of value between the HTN and the between the mainnet and the incentivized testnet, because if you would be, for instance, implement let's say a stablecoin, what you would do is that you would first try to make it on the testnet, and what you could do is that you could lock up $100,000 in the ITN in your D app, and you could then say, if you break my stablecoin on the testnet, I pay you 300,000 in ADA. And there could be a smart contract that guarantees it.
Let's use a smaller number. Let's say like 500 in ADA. You scare me with these big numbers, man. But you know what? This is a brilliant
you,
idea. This is a
have
brilliant
you
idea, Mark. You've sold me. You've sold me. Keep
I
it
mean,
running.
how much did the recent day collapse cost? It was billions, wasn't it?
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Trillions.
No. I mean, I think it was like $3 billion US in the Ethereum stablecoin when the network got if they would let it collapse.
Yeah. Oh, the die. Okay,
Oh
I
yeah,
misheard you.
yeah.
I misheard you. Yeah.
But when it supports side chains at that point, let's just say this became its own, like, Lacedano as opposed to Cardano or whatever, then at that point, when it's capable of supporting side chains, at that point, then it could be integrated
With all the other chains, yeah.
So how would this work, Mark? Help me get through this. Let's say we keep the Cardano testnet running. Keep it running, man. Keep it running. I think that's a good idea. You sold me on it, right? Let's say they implement Yella on the Rust testnet or the KEVM. Let's say that gets deployed on the Rust testnet. Is there a benefit? Can it then be plugged into the Cardano Haskell mainnet?
Not easily, but you could test how much demand for Yella, and Yella would actually be very easy. KAVM would be a little bit more difficult, but putting Yella on German Gander, that effort should be minimal. But what you could do is that you could test the demand. If you would see people moving applications from Ethereum onto the ITN to test how they work in that environment, you know that there is a demand from the Ethereum developers to move their apps. You would also see if they are moving the same applications as they are, or if they are making at least minor or even substantial modifications to the apps, and they try to reinvent and improve the applications as they move them onto the new chain. And if you see the demand and the level of innovation and improvement, then you know if we implement Yella or KAVM on the Haskell side, it will bring a lot of value, as opposed to we don't know how much value it brings, so we don't know if it's really worth the effort and the resources and the money.
I wonder if you would be able to have the like an app on one chain communicate with another on a side chain.
Yeah, that's what the side chains are for. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what am I trying to say? This kind of goes back to the whole thing about like having the separate test bed, but that it's rich with node operators as opposed to just like a few node operators. We have this large amount, so then we can test things out, and if somebody's worried about an app getting stuck on one side or the other, then maybe at some point they'd be able to communicate across until those developers could get it moved over to the main Cardano one if they wanted to, or they might even end up developing another chain just for their app and have it talk through Hydra or whatever.
Mark, would it be easy to do that? Like if they built the app on the Rust testnet, since it's an app on the Rust testnet, is it less difficult to move it to Haskell than if you...
Well, it depends if you would move it as KAVM or a Yella application, or if you would be moving it as a Bluetooth Core application. That's the same. Like, okay, bringing Yella onto the German Gander is relatively easy. Bringing Bluetooth Core onto the German Gander is fucking difficult. Okay. That's expensive thing. Yella is cheap. Bluetooth Core is expensive, and the other way around. Bringing Yella onto the Haskell is expensive. Bringing Yella into the German Gander is cheap. If you move it onto the German Gander testnet and have an ability to move value and communicate with things on the Cardano mainnet that are in Bluetooth Bluetooth Core, it gives you the visibility, it gives you the ability to quantify the demand and the value of making that project happen. Because you will see if there is activity happening, then it makes sense to develop a Yella or KAVM for the Cardano node. If you invest 2 months of effort into plugging Hele onto the German Gander, and in 1 year you see almost no activity, you know what, it would be money burned. If you see a lot of activity, you will be like, okay, let's do it because it will generate lots of activity on the mainnet. But there is this requirement for the ability to communicate between the testnet and the mainnet using the sidechains, or you could use, of course, second layer channels like Hydra. But we all know that Hydra is not any close, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think it is.
I think it's at least 3 years away. So
I think it's going to be a little while for Hydra.
Yeah.
But at least there's papers out on it. The research is there supporting
they are
the models
protocols.
real world simulations have been run to test it.
There are 4 protocols for Hydra. Only 1 paper was published, and the simulations you talk about, they've been all done on AVS. So that's the same like when we talk the slot battles.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same issue. They deployed it on one on one cloud provider.
Yeah.
Who has super fast fiber between all the data centers. So if they achieved certain performance there, in a real world, the performance would be lower.
Yeah. Well,
but it's still good performance.
And if the Rust testnet were to move forward, that's the one thing I would want prioritized, is to fix that problem with the slot battles, because people kind of get that problem confused, thinking that it's, simply run it on an AWS, but that's not true. The problem it has is, people will just say latency, like a real broad hand stroke. Oh, that problem is latency. Well, no, it's not latency, because it's latency to where? That's the part that's hard to define. The problem with that protocol is it has a geographic center of mass, and you guys know I've talked about it at length. That needs to be fixed. So if it moves forward, that problem has to get fixed. Or I'm just be like,
it was already. I agree. It was already fixed on the Haskell side, right?
It screwed people at remote locations. It screwed people in South America. It screwed people in Hawaii. And so if you want to run a test net that takes place on one computer in Germany, okay, don't fix it. But if you actually want to find out what happens, fix it, right? That part needs to get fixed.
But if we will continue getting it fixed, will be easy because it was already fixed for the Haskell, so we know how to fix it.
Yeah, but Haskell has VRF keys and Rust doesn't. So you'd have to pick another number. You'd have to pick a different number, right? The hash.
No, it would be the same solution. You would use the lowest index of the verified random value.
The lowest index, or just actually randomly pick an index?
Oh, they use the lowest. They use the lowest index,
which is random, because it's from the VRF.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine then. But that's what I said. The Rust doesn't have VRF.
It does.
Yeah, they just need to pull it in and merge.
Block selection works. It uses VRF.
Okay, then they could use that.
It's just the only difference is that you don't need to rotate your keys. That's the only difference. On Haskell, you need to rotate your block signing keys.
Yeah.
But Rust uses VRF as well, so that it uses
VRF. I know it used VRF. But I thought the VRF was stuffed into a file that nobody sees. It's in your file. It's packed in there with the other two. So it's visible, right? That VRF is... Anyway, it's fixable, right?
The key is visible.
The key is it's fixable.
All the keys are visible.
Okay. The VRF is actually visible, the actual VRF, or the result?
The key of the... No. The key is visible.
Okay.
To the operator. And
to the
protocol...
operator.
Yeah, and the protocol knows the index, so...
Okay. So it is fixable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe 0.9.2 will have the fix in there.
I think, look, 0.9.0, if it will be running on ITN, that will basically be the stakeholders will get their vote. So I wouldn't expect this fix to be there. Okay. But in 0.9 one, it could and probably would be there.
Okay. So it looks like
we could even vote on it.
Yeah.
Because 0.9.0 will have the ability to vote, right?
Speaking of a vote, let me do a vote in the chat, or at least get people to say their piece about it. So what are we looking at? Are you guys good with keep the ITN moving? Can we agree on that?
Look, I have no
I can agree on that.
I have no reason to turning on two nodes that I don't need to touch.
So are you saying yes or no?
I'm saying I'm going to keep it running regardless of what you guys do, and I will see what will happen.
Okay, me too. That sounds good. I'm gonna keep it running fine. So, what do you think, Kyle? What's your take?
Yeah, I'm gonna let it run.
You're gonna let it run. All right.
Let me be honest. On the other hand, if it starts crashing tomorrow, I will not be waking up to fix it.
I agree with that too. I agree with that too. All right, and so if they upgrade to 9.0, 9.1, you're gonna leave it run. What do you guys say? Yes or no?
The day 0.90 will be released, I will update to 0.9.0.
Okay, nice. All right, so at least the four of us are in agreement. We'll keep it running. Now, what I need a vote from anyone who's still dialed in, wow, there's still 65 people here. Thank you, everyone, is new snapshot or old snapshot? Based on what we talked about, with keeping the old snapshot is less overhead on the pool operators, and is it more beneficial to the people who started off? I don't know. And then there's new snapshot, which will take a bit more work and resources on the part of IOHK. All right, so let me know in the chat, old or new, thumbs up, thumbs down. I'll try to figure out how to run a poll on Twitter or something. I ran one yesterday.
You need to look at, I don't know if Slido supports polls, but it definitely can be used to ask questions and prioritize which one to ask.
One thing about the new versus old also is because it would require some effort, we might lose pool operators. You know, I mean,
well,
what's more likely to be the case? Are they going to stay with the old, or are they going to stay with the new?
Losing some pool operators would be a good thing anyway.
Why is that?
Well, because there is lots of inactive pools that don't even have delegated 1 ADA, but we still present them in statistics like we got 1,200 pools registered. Yeah.
But I mean, that's going to happen in the mainnet. You know, in 200 years, there's a lot of the pools running now.
Oh no, they will expire because they will have to deposit a certain amount of. You will have to pull that. There will be incentive to deregister your stake pool on the HTN. There isn't one on the ITN.
Yeah, on the Haskell main, like currently on the HTN, it expires every 5 days. Will that cause the pool to delist or just not make blocks?
That will just make invalid blocks.
It'll make invalid blocks. Okay.
Or
on the mainnet, it's like going to be 90 days.
Yeah, it will be 90 days.
Okay.
But and then remember, on the mainnet, when you register your pool, you put a little deposit which you get back when you deregister your pool.
Right. And if you don't re-register the pool after some period of time, like 6 months or something like that.
No, there isn't a timeout, at least not in the spec.
Okay.
But still, you would be losing money.
Okay.
And then, through the governance, we can look at the pools that haven't made block in 3 years, and through the governance process, we can say, okay, let's disregard them. We will have a vote, honest majority or majority of 75% of the stakeholders will vote. This pool is no longer going to be valid, continuing 10 epochs from here if he doesn't do something or whatever.
And keeping the old blockchain then allows, or keeping the old snapshot allows us to test that out.
Yeah. And so doing the new snapshot,
well, I think
really what you're getting at there is doing the new snapshot. You're going to find out who the real serious pool operators are.
Well, you already know because they're making blocks.
Well, not really,
Well,
because there are serious pool operators in South America and Hawaii who did not make blocks, or they lost too many blocks. Seriously, I saw them literally get demotivated and get their bubble popped, and then move the pool to Germany.
I think there should be redistribution, and there should be a removal of, or at least some attempt to clean up the Sybil pool issue.
Okay.
And there probably should be some redistribution of delegation, which could be accomplished by increasing the K. It could go from 100 to 200. Even that would ripple into a large amount of redelegation if there would be. I mean, imagine all the 1% pools being consolidated into one. There would be lots of stake to go around in the network, wouldn't it?
Okay. Yeah, and plus people.
I think pool operator rewards need to be included in any snapshot. I think pool operator rewards need to be included in any type of snapshot scenario.
Well, that is what makes the snapshot so complicated and complex. So I wouldn't go for the new snapshot.
Okay.
I would try to bring the liquidity between mainnet and testnet as fast as possible. That's what I would do. Okay. Because making a new snapshot when you want the rewards included, the new balance, it makes it really complex. If we would be like, let's do a new snapshot without the rewards being captured. Okay, that's easy. We've already done it. We've done it in November. It would be the same process.
Why can't we? Why can't we distribute the rewards and then just repeat the November process?
Because the rewards will be distributed as part of the Shelly launch. So then, okay.
I mean, technically, you could create a new snap. I'm not advocating this, but you could create the new snapshot and then run the scripts that would distribute the rewards onto the new snapshot. But
like pasting.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, but that is what I am saying. That is what makes it the complex process that hasn't been tested before. The adding the rewards to today's snapshot that was not tested, right?
Yeah, and if you're taking two different blockchains and pasting them together, kind of kills the whole.
That's the thing. You are pasting together three different blockchains if you want to add the rewards.
I think it'll lose credibility to do that. So right now, here's what I'm thinking. After I wasn't thinking this when we started this podcast or this discussion. I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards option 3: keep the ITN going, keep the original snapshot. I hate to say that, but it just seems like the best way to go.
Well, I mean, it even makes sense. Okay, it's the early adopters should have a little edge because those people put trust into the fact that IOHK and Cardano and everything will be here next year, that the testnet will function, that there will be nothing critical that will delay the development for another year. They took a risk and moved their funds over from the exchange. They may even exchange some other coins into ADA prior to the snapshot. Let me put it this way: that the current snapshot is more representative of people who were loyal to the project over a longer period of time.
Well, I think it's also less likely to break the network when people, people's nodes that they currently have running. I mean, people are putting. I don't know. I just feel like there might be like a lot of drop off of like serious people who are seriously into this. They might be like, I'm not gonna mess with that, and then we lose the ITN or something.
Yeah, I just thought of something, and Mark, tell me if this will work, because I had a DM from someone also, and that reminded me. Let's say we keep the old snapshot, but give people who have ledgers the capability to participate who hadn't previously participated.
They already have it.
Yeah, I know they have. I know they have it with Yoroi, but correct me if I'm wrong, or teach me something here about this. Can they use the ledger with Yoroi, with the original snapshot, and introduce their rewards without doing some crazy risky trick,
they need to generate new seed first, move the funds to the new seed, then
ledger.
Yeah,
and it stays on the ledger. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
they move the fund.
Look, what they do is that they generate a new seed, they move they just rotate the wallet, then basically their old seed is worthless because it doesn't have any money anymore on the mainnet, and then they enter this seed into the Yoroi.
Okay, what about Trezor? Same thing?
The same thing.
Okay, you sold me. All right, I'm now for option 3. Keep moving forward. Keep the original snapshot.
If there are people with Ledger and Trezor not participating on the ITN, it's because they weren't following the project.
Yeah.
Because it came on about in February, this functionality.
Yeah, in February-ish.
And there were very precise videos from Emurgo on how to do it safely.
Yeah. But also, Mark, you got to keep in mind that there are very wealthy people. There are whales out there who don't follow videos like this and the other videos,
and they should
who actually have a life.
And if they
want to participate.
If they are whales, they should have an asset manager.
Yeah, or that's like you.
No, not me. But an asset. I mean. I have an asset manager, and I'm certainly not a whale, but he doesn't take care about my crypto.
You're a Tezos whale.
I wish.
I just noticed that the frog guy is wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt. Just have to point that out.
Heck yeah. Kyle, bring your daughter back on. I think people will like it better if your daughter's here.
Abel.
Who wants the turtles?
Bring the young lady back over here. Everyone said she was cute. I don't know if you saw that. Like, oh, she's cute.
Cardano Land wants to say hey to you.
She must get it from her mom. She didn't get it from you. All right. So this is starting to make more sense. I don't know where you guys are at, but I'm in favor of moving forward. Keep those Rust nodes going. Again, it's an individual decision. Each pool operator makes their own decision. That's how decentralized works. Well, hi, young lady. What's your name?
Here is the thing. Actually, the vote is biased toward also one thing.
I love Cardano.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's also that
what's up.
Turning off your node requires effort. So even if people actually don't even know that there is this vote going on, the nodes will stay up.
Mm-hmm.
Because they just don't.
That's a horrible argument.
Oh, you'd be surprised how many applications are out there that people don't even know are running in their companies because they just forgot to turn them off.
Yeah, man.
I can imagine. Hold on, I got Carlos iPhone jumping in here. Is that my Carlos? Is that our Carlos from the Be Kind pool? Carlos, welcome. How you doing, man? It's not showing up on YouTube, but Carlos, you're dialed in now. Welcome to the conversation here. Can you hear us?
We are going to have a big party here.
You know, it's interesting. Zoom changed a few things. Right now, anyone who's not dialed in with video, Zoom puts a blank square there. At first, it had Mark's name up on the board, but then it moved it out. And now Carlos dialed in and it put his name up on the board. Carlos, you got it. You use a web browser. Can you hear us? All right, we'll give you some time to get checked in if you need to make some adjustments. All right. Okay, guys, so what do you think? We got to wrap this up in a bit. I do need a break from podcasting. I spent a little bit of time last night, this morning, and now this afternoon.
So who was the secret guest? Tell us.
Who's the secret guest where?
Who was the secret guest on the morning podcast?
Oh, it was Frederick, Matthias, and over on the Cardano effect, and Sebastian, and it was for Cardano improvement proposals.
So I see.
Yeah, that episode will be out between Wednesday and Friday of this week. I've got to find the right timing between the last episode and the next episode on when Philippe and I are going to put that one out. But they did. Oh, it was fantastic, man. I learned so much stuff. But CIP1 is in GitHub. You can go check out CIP1.
I know.
Yeah.
I read it.
Yeah, and then there's other CIPs in there, but they introduced the subject, and we're going to put that podcast out, and then we're going to have another podcast a couple of months from now. They're going to come back over to the Cardano effect and answer people's questions. So once they get some time to churn and digest and work on the Cardano improvement proposals, then they'll go back over to the Cardano effect, do another one, and we'll get all the community inputs on that and see how that goes. But I was very impressed. Pretty amazing. And Frederick did a great job with his presentation. It was great. So we will have that out later this week over at the Cardano effect. So what do you guys think? Cool. I got to wrap it up shortly, but are you leaning towards, so we can't kind of cave an agreement, the four of us here will keep it running. Yep. What about new snapshot, old snapshot? Where you sitting with that? You want a new snapshot?
I'd rather stay with the old, just so that there's not as much breakage.
I'm kind of thinking old too. I'm on the old side of the house now. I was new, but now I'm thinking old.
I would keep the old, but I would also reduce the amount of rewards that is being paid to the people who are because I understand where the feeling of disjustice is coming from the people who bought in later. So it could be 10%, 20%, 50%, doesn't matter. They just want to have some sense of justice that even though they weren't included in the initial snapshot,
they can buy from Binance then.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be listed like in a week anyway. Let's not.
So in general,
I think that's the line. I see a lot of the community kind of saying, okay, maybe having a testnet isn't a bad idea, but that the listing issue, I think, is the contention area in the community.
That's why I think it shouldn't be listed.
Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's why I think it shouldn't be listed at all.
Kyle, what do you think?
I think
old
it
or
totally should.
What's your argument for it?
I think old.
Okay.
Well, so we can self-fund it, and it can run independently of the Cardano treasury. Yeah,
sure. But
I think we run the old chain, let the pool operators keep the rewards, and then produce liquidity to that. Provide mainnet treasury rewards, or not treasury, but mainnet rewards until maybe 30 days until they figure the shit out. But after that, have the funds be strictly come from T-ADA, and then give us liquidity.
Why do you need the listing on exchange when you can have the side chain and exchange T-ADA for ADA?
Because the side chain doesn't exist today, bro, and I got kids to feed tomorrow.
Short term, long term.
But the listing won't happen that shortly either.
You can have both. You can have the short term, put it happen quick. Long term, you have the side chain. You can have both.
I mean, we waited 8 months to get paid this time around. What's a little bit longer? But saying, let's wait until we can monetize until side chains comes. You crazy, man. It won't survive. There's got to be an incentive, and it's got to be happening recur. It's got to be there.
Side chains on Haskell. Is that even on? What is that part of? Is that Basho? Voltaire? Google.
Basho.
Is it Basho?
Yeah, that's about scalability and interoperability.
Okay,
but that's coming real soon. I mean, Charles hinted even that it's going to come like a lot sooner than people expect. I think
actually, Bitcoin Cash already.
When that comes,
well, you see, when Charles spoke about the ability to have Bitcoin Cash in your Daedalus wallet, that's because when they wrote the patch for Bitcoin regarding the non-interactive proofs of proof of work, Bitcoin Cash actually accepted the patch. So Bitcoin Cash is ready to move to Cardano as soon as Cardano will be ready.
Oh man, I didn't know that. Holy crap!
Well, maybe I
like Roger Ver too. Roger Ver's he's a street fighter, man. I like that guy.
He has Satoshi Vision now. He doesn't care about cash anymore. Isn't he the Satoshi Vision guy now?
Yeah.
So he doesn't care about Bitcoin Cash anymore. No?
Really, I didn't know he converted. He's a communist.
I think he went to the Satoshi Vision cult.
Oh wow. No, he's still a street fighter. I'll give him credit. I'll give him props for that. All right, guys. So here's where I'm sitting. I'm sitting on keep it running, old snapshot. My take on that is if you keep it simple, stupid, the less moving parts, the less chances you're going to break something. Although I'd love to bring the new people in, but my take is keep the old snapshot, but make sure it's easy for the Ledger and Trezor users to participate in the continuing effort without too much risk and without too much manipulating goofy ass keys, because that's like the biggest problem in crypto is the complexity and also the people. But anyway, the complexity.
And the new people are going to be able to benefit in less than 2 months now. You know, they're already going to get it on the mainnet.
Yeah, that's true. They'll have that, so that'll incentivize mainnet.
I mean, basically, we are really talking about only these 2 months.
Yeah, because after that, they'll run in parallel, though. Mm-hmm. We're just filling in a gap. This is like a last-minute crisis. Hey, let's fill in the gap and keep the thing running.
But okay, let's say the rewards on the ITN are like 12%. If we would slash those rewards to 10% of what they are now, it would be 1.2% of inflation.
I don't think we even need to worry about moving the rewards over to the mainnet after.
Yeah, because the amount of rewards will be so small, it will actually push the operators to push the fees higher. If we increase the K, there will be a wider redistribution of the funds. And if we introduce the A0 parameter or the pledge influence factor, there will the Sybil pools will not, I will not say disappear, but there will be less of them. So
people trying to attack things will have less motive to be attacking the ITN in the first place, because they were wanting to hurt the.
It's not an attack when everybody knows you. It's Sybil means that you are being hidden. Having your pool called 0 PCT 123 is not a Sybil attack, but yeah. And for the 2 months, we don't really need to care much, and in the long run. When we will have the mainnet rewards, I think we could wait for the sidechain solution. Okay. Then trying to push the Binance listing, because the Binance listing sends a certain signal. Let's be honest. So, I mean, I think there is only one blockchain that has it this way, and it's Polkadot. They have they have a testnet token listed, and then now they are going to the mainnet, and they will have their mainnet token listed.
I'm okay with the Binance listing and running as a separate chain or something.
I mean, I personally am okay with everything. I'm just saying that the listing will piss off more people.
Okay, that's all right.
I mean,
everyone. Yeah, you can't please everybody. You can't.
Or it'll draw more people to the testnet, to allow for a more substantially sized testnet.
Yeah. So, guys, I got to wrap it up here. I hear my dinner cook. I just heard the fire alarm go off. That means my dinner's done.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining who have been watching and following along, and I appreciate your comments in the chat. There's some funny ones in there. And thank you guys for coming on to Digital Fortress and talking with folks. I appreciate it. James, Kyle, and Mark, you guys coming over here.
Yeah.
And thanks for having us.
Always.
Yeah, you bet, guys. So I know this was tough, but I feel a lot better now. I feel a little more confident. Keep it moving forward, and I think we have a better idea of what we need to do.
I guess we will see in about 10 days. That was the timeline for the vote, right?
So that's my vote, is keep it running and use the old snapshot for all the reasons we discussed.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Have a good night, guys. At least I will have a good night. You have a good rest of the day in the US. Cheers.
Cheers. Take care, guys.